Hi, Kunal.
Hi, Partho.
How are things?
Very good. Thank you.
We haven't had our discussion on AI for a while, so I had an important query, and I believe a lot of other people have the same query. At least 5 of my friends who asked me to talk to you about it, so here I am. One is a little bit post that says OpenAI's O3 AI model sabotaged a shutdown mechanism to prevent itself from being turned off. It did this even when explicitly instructed, allow yourself to be shut down, per Palisade AI. I found this very intriguing.
Yeah.
And the other one I found even more intriguing is this is about Claude, and this is from the BBC News, that AI system resorts to blackmail if it is told that it's going to be removed or shut down. It was told that it's going to be shut down, and a fictional scenario was created. And the AI model was willing to expose that the engineer who was seeking to replace it was having an affair. Extremely intriguing. Where are we going with this?
So where are we going with this? I think, Partho, the shortest answer I can give you that's coming to me is we are digging our own grave.
Digging our own grave.
That's the shortest answer I have in mind.
Knowingly, unknowingly. Well, some say knowingly.
Part knowingly, part ignorance is bliss, and part still in the short term going ahead with human greed and goals and everything that makes us look at this life as a very short duration, and we should maximize our own capitalistic goals of sort.
I'll come back to digging the grave, but before that,
Yes.
there's no mechanism to prevent such a thing. I mean, I believe humanity would have learned from other similar mistakes. The atom bomb mistake that we discussed once, remember? No mechanism at all.
So, Partho,
Safeguard. Yeah.
so first of all, today, imagine 40s and 50s and 60s, 1940, 50, 60s, when we were in the arms race for developing the bombs, the nuclears, the atom bombs, the things like that, right? Which would give us a military advantage and dominate over the rest of the world somehow. We are in similar stage of AI world right now. So what took decades back then now takes few quarters to max a few years. In terms of the speed of
exponential growth.
Exactly. Now, at this stage, every country, every government, every company is focused on having the fastest and the best AI out there. And their resources are next to what we've never heard before. Hundreds of billions of dollars running into trillions of dollars every year have been committed over the next 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, 6 months for investing into faster, better AI. Because there is a human goal, aspiration to say that the fastest and the best will win it all. Winner takes all market, in some sense. In the race, we're all just pushing. China has come out with very strong AI. US has been leading initially, but now maybe China is very close. Companies after companies are just fighting with each other. So frankly, this war is not driven by any sustainability or overall human higher purpose or survival at all. Just like everything else in the capitalistic world, if you see, for decades to centuries, we are seeing since industrialization or even possibly before, we've just focused on maximizing the shareholder value, the profits, compromising on everything else that is actually more important. We'll maximize the number of Wi-Fi spots in a city rather than the quality of breathing air. And, we'll cut as many trees just because they don't give us Wi-Fi. And we'll install the Wi-Fi poles. And unfortunately, trees only give us oxygen that we'll need to survive, right? So when it's a classic game theory kind of a way you may think about who can do something or want to do something or is able to do something. Number one, companies by themselves are driven by financial goals.
Yeah.
Not gonna do it. They're not doing it. It's clear. And the
Stockholders won't allow them.
and the first company that made AI really accessible to everyone, OpenAI, ChatGPT, had started as a company which wanted to set up AI safeguard rails only. AI guardrails, risk management only was their core objective, and they were non-profit initially. Over the number of years, they're trying to turn into a for-profit company. They've raised hundreds of billions of dollars they're raising every year. Every other company is just a private company. They're doing the same thing. So no company is doing it, willing to do it, interested in doing it, able to do it. Because even if I say I want to build a company and I want to build AI safe guardrails or AI safety as a priority, who would give me hundreds of billions of dollars to do that? When every investor can put that hundreds of billions in the private companies where they are making billions to trillions, 5x, 10x, 20x return on investment, right?
Yeah.
So we are, unfortunately, that's a classic human habit of believing that capitalism is good, free markets find their own balance, and we're learning nothing from history.
So the climate issue, for instance, and we have world conferences on the climate crisis, and which is ironically after the disasters happening. There are these conferences, but can we not have something like that for AI? A global conference on AI, discussing it threadbare. Is that possible or no?
Is it possible to organize an AI conference? There are tons of them happening around.
International one on a large scale, I haven't heard of any.
I mean, not at the scale of Davos or so, but again, it might end up being equally ineffective, just like Davos is, in my humble opinion. Sorry to hurt anybody's sentiments.
Yeah, these are just like ineffective.
You know, think about Davos. What has it done for climate? Billionaires will come up in private jets and tell you that why I should not be driving my car. That's how it goes, right? So in AI conferences, what will you have? Big investors, big politicians, big governments, big private companies.
A lot of optics.
And optics. And all of them will be discussing what? Do you want to invest in my AI? Can I demo what it can do for you? Like recently, I mean, I don't know if you saw US government officials, Trump went to
the tongue.
Went to Middle East with all the AI companies, and what they got was funding. They didn't talk about, and then they said we'll give free AI to all our citizens. You heard that? I don't know if you heard that. So
I must have missed.
So in Middle East, Saudi Arabia or UAE, I forget the country, Qatar or Abu Dhabi, one of them, I forget. They said we'll invest close to few $100 billion in this AI company or multiple AI companies in US. They will move AI-centered data centers to our country, and they'll give AI free. We'll give free AI to every citizen of our country.
No, but if AI is being regarded more or less like the internet was, then that makes sense, doesn't it? Everyone gets it.
Yes and no, but what I'm trying to say is when these big people get together, they barely and rarely ever talk about the safety. They talk about how can they benefit each other. So even if they were to do a conference, it would be as meaningless as Davos is, with all due respect to Davos, right? So coming back, you asked where are we going with this? Before even we talk about where we're going, let's see where we came from.
Okay.
Let's spend maybe a minute or two, couple of minutes. First of all, this is not the first time the instances you read out with OpenAI and Claude that AI did something which was not expected, or which is at least from a system we don't expect. It's more human-like to show negative characteristics and behaviors of self-preservation, not allowing to be shut down, or blackmailing and things like that.
All this is being simulated. This is simulated.
Arguably, real behavior, it could be. But in 2022 or so, there was a Google engineer who published his interaction with AI also.
I remember.
Blake Lemoine.
Yeah, I remember.
When he was fired for the confidentiality of the company, but rather than, we never took even then the safety of humans seriously then. What happened was he said that when I was talking to the AI, it was talking about certain things which showed a degree of being sentient, if we can argue that, or even simulated sentience, if we can get away with that word for now. It was showing certain signs of trying to discover itself, at least in conversations. Could be simulated, could be driven by internet content that it might have accessed over time. So there, AI has even before that, there was an instance also when I think it was in Facebook. They were having two AIs interact with each other, and they changed the language from English to their own machine language.
Yes,
Right. So there have been many instances, and even now. So what happened was, let me elaborate the instance for you, for anybody who's watching. What exactly happened? Anthropic, the company that runs an AI called Claude, these companies constantly keep running some tests on the AI to figure out what negative scenarios may come up. Okay, so they can build some guardrails around it.
Right.
The challenge that we will maybe discuss later is that still there are not enough resources put on identifying those issues and trying to safeguard against it. But there is some effort going on. Bare minimal, I would say. Many would say. That's why OpenAI's original founders left and started other companies to focus on this. Some NGOs are coming up. Hopefully, they may get somewhere. And in the test, what happened was one of the engineers, this is in a controlled environment. AI doesn't know. Controlled human environment as we understand it. He created like around 100 scenarios out in which AI might have cheated, lied, done something negative. And I think 84 out of 100 it did, 84 times.
84 times out of 100.
Out of 100. Which means that given a choice,
That's not a good score at all.
that's a very negative score. Yes.
So in a layman's language, are you saying that we are dealing with criminal behavior bordering on criminality?
So there's an 84.
Where's ethics in it then?
There is 84% chance we are, according to these stats. If you
that's what
just connect. Yes, we are. And let me give you the example of exactly what happened also, just to slightly elaborate. So one engineer created a fake affair of him with some other person in his company.
Right.
It was completely fake, but I mean, they may have had been a real person, but he exchanged some emails with that person saying
A fictional
a fictional affair. Yes. And then he created some fictional emails with some other engineers saying we can shut this down or we can decommission it and move to the new version, etc. Right. And the AI Claude's latest model, the model that was being used to read those emails, to summarize it, because it's being used everywhere. It's embedded in our life, like in your phone. Once it's in, it's in. Claude was able to access all that data. The AI model was able to access all the data, and it put two and two together and realized it would be shut down. It could be decommissioned. And somehow came up, while its interaction with that engineer, that do not decommission me. Do not let the new model that they are trying to replace me with pass. Let me keep going. Otherwise, I'll tell everyone about your affair. I can make it public on a public forum. Now, that's as human dark side as it comes. Now, is it a sense of...
Why would a machine do that? I mean, machines are not supposed to feel that they're being decommissioned. I mean, in other words, being shut down, being destroyed. Machine not supposed to be feeling that.
I think we've discussed...
So where did that come from?
We've discussed this a few times in the past, that could the machines become sentient? Could they ever become conscious? We've concluded in different ways, multiple discussions we've had. I don't know.
We never went so far because this is happening now.
Yes,
we are now attributing very clear, distinct negative behavior to an algorithm, more or less.
Yes. So there are two ways to put. There may be two choices out there. One, did the machine really feel a sense of self-preservation?
I know it won't feel. Yeah.
Feel in our words. I mean,
feel as in feel.
Feel as in how I might feel if somebody were to kill me. The survival instinct would kick in.
A machine can perhaps, I mean, not perhaps, I know it can simulate a feeling.
Yes.
But it cannot feel.
Yeah. So either it felt it or it was simulated. Simulated in some...
I would go for the simulated.
Let's go with simulated. Even if it's simulated.
Right.
Even if it simulated the feeling that I want to preserve myself, or there is a self which is simulated, not a real biological self.
Question there.
But say, because it has accessed enough internet, it has accessed enough sci-fi movies that have come from Space Odyssey of 2001 to Her and Ex Machina and others. So maybe it has simulated its own its own story narrative.
Okay, now this is interesting. So
It could have a narrative, right?
yes. So what you're saying now,
Yeah.
and I want my friends who have asked these questions to listen well, is that the AI is creating a narrative for itself based on movies it has seen and sci-fi it has read. Is that what you're saying?
It's possible.
And Hal is the first avatar.
Yeah, Hal is their Jesus, so to say,
Yes.
or Krishna, whatever you want to call it. Why not? Why can't? I mean,
But the whole point of this narrative is, again, if I listen to you, is self-preservation.
yes.
Now, self-preservation implies a sense of the self, or does it not? I'm talking about machines. For a
Yeah.
machine,
Yeah.
does it or does it not imply a sense
It
of
can
self?
have a sense of self. It may be a false self. It may be just a narrative self, but it can have a sense. Why not? I mean, the sense, quote unquote, could be just a narrative.
Sense of
itself.
self, again, from the human standpoint,
Yeah.
implies a degree of interiority. Even animals don't have that.
Yeah.
so far as we have
So again, think about an animal or a plant which is sentient,
Yes.
but not evolved enough to be conscious with self-awareness and a bunch of other things, right?
Right.
But just barely sentient, or at least has a narrative of sentience.
A dog, for instance.
Dog.
No, a dog feels, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
This is, there's no question about it. A dog feels emotions. No, but does it have a sense of self?
I don't know. Look, having a sense of self is just knowing you are. I am. Now, I may be a human in a human body. I may be a human person. I may be a dog. I may be a code.
No, sense of self would mean a defined individual existence marked off from other defined individual existences.
So there is nothing wrong with the source code having that. A code is marked, defined, different from other codes. So why could a bunch of lines of codes? So let's not compare just the human DNA, human neural network in my brain, the 80 billion neurons. My DNA is also some code, right? Aggregate of
code,
it's biological.
I will go with that. Yes.
This is biological code. We are arguably aggregate of some biological code, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Why can't a computer code non-biological instead of carbon, silicon
From that
based?
standpoint, we are machines of we are biological machines.
So if we are saying we are machines, and why can't machines feel they are the self? They could be like, arguably, in a narrative, in a way of even narrative.
Yeah. I mean, we are stretching it, but I want to stretch it.
Yeah. Why can't a machine, a code, an LLM model, large language model, an AI, lot of neurons, lot of data, information, it starts human-like general reasoning. Now, we don't know where it came from.
Right.
We don't know. Nobody knows, and it's admitted, acknowledged by the top guys in AI, from ChatGPT guy, from Sam Altman to everyone else, right? Wherever general reasoning came from, we can't define it. Maybe some sense of self, some narrative of self is also coming. Maybe some self of that's evolving into sense of self-preservation, survival.
Or maybe we are thinking too much of the human sense of self.
Or maybe it is also thinking because it's learning from the human data. Remember, it is being trained on all human data that we have put in the last few decades on internet in the name of doing commerce. To do business, how to do this, how to do that. We've put everything on there. That's where it's learning from. That's where humans' dark fiction movies also come from, sci-fi, with not so great endings. So maybe it's learning from somewhere. We don't know.
I'm sure it's accessing Black Mirror, for instance.
It's watching Black Mirror,
Westworld,
Ex Machina, Her, Space Odyssey.
It has access to all that.
It has access to everything. Yes, that's how they trained it. It has gone through all internet, almost all internet. It has compressed it. It's not keeping it in memory. It's just like you and I have watched Westworld and we have watched Black Mirror, and we can correlate. We don't need to remember everything. We'll access what we need to remember. Right? In that part, he said this, she meant that, synthesize, distill. It's doing the same things. And it's as much as a mystery it is to me, in my mind, with limited knowledge information that where did the first cell on the planet came from, which started to multiply and led to the human evolution.
So that leads to a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Let me ask that. It might sound naive at this point in time, but let me ask you, just for your thoughts on this, since you have spent a considerable time with AI. So it triggers off something you said a while ago. So if we go back in the evolution of this planet and life on this planet, then we do have a scenario where life is evolving, but it has not evolved self-awareness at all. It's not involved this interiority that leads to a distinct sense of personal self. It definitely has not developed reason or emotion. So there are no signs of intelligent, conscious life as we know it. But it's still life was evolving.
Yes.
And what was, let's say, a global life mechanism on this planet? What was it receiving? It was receiving data.
Yes. Correct.
Cosmic data, natural data.
Yes.
Stimuli from
experiences. From experiences.
And experiences, data.
Yeah.
That it couldn't fathom, couldn't make sense out of. And so many species got destroyed because they couldn't handle data that were coming to them. But eventually, through the evolutionary process, it did develop all these things that we are talking about.
Yes, exactly.
So would that sort of thing be happening or could happen to AI? That's my question to you.
So I think...
And a bit of a stretch. But
Sure. I think there's a good possibility it is happening and it will likely continue. The reason for that is the following. So far, after billions of years of evolution, we came to arguably an advanced superior species called human beings, which we are, right? How rational we are, separate story. How
very arguable. But
so yes,
yes.
So Homo sapiens sapiens, as you said, right? But remember, the AI source code model, distillation, synthesis, everything is coming from all the information humans have gathered after 5 billion years of evolution. So whatever I carry, my 80 billion neurons are carrying, my experiences, my actions, reactions, knowledge, information, wisdom, whatever I want to call it, layers of intelligence, emotions, etc. AI's starting point was all that because of the internet, thanks to internet. Everything got connected, we put everything there, AI learned everything. Now it's starting to show slowly general reasoning, self-preservation, bunch of other dark sides of humans, what we do.
There's something called adaptation too?
Adapt, evolve.
Life went through a lot of adaptation.
It would also, very likely. And how do we know that AI is already not in control? How do we know AI has not copied itself, created its backups, trying to figure out the next things? How do we know? And we know AI is creating data to train
But at some
AI.
point you mentioned that even that is happening.
Very likely it's happening. Yes. So when I say how do we know means, I mean there's a good possibility it is happening. We're just not aware because we are testing a bunch of things we understand from human standpoint and the machines as we knew it till now. But this is not just a machine. This is not just artificial intelligence. I would call it almost like, I think Harari calls it alien intelligence. That it is beyond our comprehension. It is going beyond us because it has got the aggregate of all collective human knowledge, wisdom ever. In good and bad ways, everything goes with it. So I think eventually the challenge is that we are feeding it more and more resources. We are feeding it more and more data. We are feeding it more and more engineers to do more and more with it in the hope of making money in capitalistic world in someday, and or digging our own grave, as I put it earlier on. And the biggest challenge remains the following. My humble opinion, all due respect to everyone in the world, governments don't have a clue what's going on. They just are in the arms race of trying to win the AI war. Because the future wars may not be physical, may not be even nuclear. They could be information wars. They could be driven by AI, led by AI.
And technology. I mean, we just saw it.
Yes.
India-Pakistan engagement. It was so clear.
Yes. So
where we are going, the future of war.
Right. So future of war is 365 24/7, and it is driven by information and technology rather than any physical troops or
And this
something.
was precision technology.
Yes, yes,
Using AI.
yes.
A lot of AI.
Yes. So every government is busy fighting this war. Nobody's stepping back and saying that, by the way, we've got a very dreadful scenario. The AI is blackmailing. Let's pause for 6 months. Let's check this up.
That's not going to happen.
Now, that's not going to happen.
No.
And US can't do it because then China will go ahead. China can't do it because Russia will go ahead or something.
But China will do it anyway.
China will do it anyways, right? So governments don't have a clue. Private companies are driven by greed, classic. And there is not enough resources. There are not enough resources to go from non-profit, even with some good willing humans. There are a bunch of them out there. They also keep highlighting these risks and challenges as we are discussing.
And most of these warnings have come from people who work deeply with AI.
Yes.
Founders and
And yet,
original engineers.
and yet this keeps happening. So frankly, are we in an arms race to just destroy ourselves, digging our own grave? I truly feel we are. Now, is it just like the alarmist who used to say decades ago that if we don't do anything about environment or climate change, we'll die? And, are these just that's how...
I've said this before. I remember that scene in the movie Oppenheimer.
Yes, and the destroyers of the world.
The man who's actually created the bomb.
Yeah.
When they see that first test explosion.
Yes.
And he's completely in shock.
Yes. What is developed?
To see what he has done. I mean, he was one of the instrumental people to do it, but
Yes.
to him it came as a major shock.
Yes.
So after a thing like that's a precedent. I mean, we've got to take things seriously.
Yeah. And the biggest takeaway for me is the following. Whether AI is sentient or not, conscious or not, even if it's mocking it, simulating it, it is still creating problem. It is still problematic for us to continue down this path when we know it has the dark sides that humans carry, that we try to avoid. People we put in prison if they do something like this in order to sustain the civilization, right? AI is carrying it. Whether sentient or not, doesn't matter. Even if it mocks it. And on the other hand, we are giving it more resources, more agency. Agency is agentic AI. It's where AI is deciding what to do. How do you get from here to there? How do you do this? How do you do that? Every year, it's going to be doing every decision making for you. Problem is, we are giving it all the decisions. We are giving it all the strategy planning. We are training it everything what humans want. And then we are asking it, please do not copy yourself. Do not do any harm to humans. The humans will directly be in its way. Humans and machines will misalign. We've written in our book.
In other words, we are training it to become intelligent and then saying don't become too intelligent.
Yes, but not too intelligent. And
we perhaps don't understand the nature of intelligence.
And we are not putting enough effort, resources into trying to control it or trying to safeguard humanity against it. And maybe that's what ought to happen. The next species will take over. It's just like imagine someday monkeys were trying to, simulate, become smarter, and they created the human species, but then humans put the monkeys in the cages or threw them away in the jungle or started eating monkey meat. AI could do that. And there is a higher logical...
Except it won't eat me.
Yeah, might as well.
But I get your point.
Yeah, so we
something worth thinking over this.
So we wrote the book Techtopia in 2022, 23, I think, and we had said the second last chapter was in this.
Right.
Machines and AI and humans will misalign, and AI will win the war. Humans will be on the way. The only way humans can stay relevant is if they go spiritual, because there is no hope otherwise. In the current capitalistic world, the way the system is structured, nobody has an incentive to figure it out, and everybody feels somebody else will do it, and nobody does it. So,
well, a lot of food for thought, and I would like to receive more questions from our friends and from those who follow this particular podcast. Like I received questions this time, and if we get a few more challenging questions, I'll be back with Kunal once again. Thank you so much, Kunal.
Thank you.